Hey, all you warlocks, fairies, and freaks. I am your host, Larry Saperstein, joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Jacob Bellotti. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm getting concerned about the power dynamics on this show. Why are you the host, and why am I the co-host?
Well, isn't that what you say when you do the intro?
No, I say hello and welcome. I'm Jacob Bellotti, joined, as always, by my fabulous co-host, Larry Saperstein.
Huh. I never thought about that. Anyway, welcome to
Let's Talk About That.
All systems are a go.
Talking database activated.
Begin in 3, 2, 1.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what? Let's talk about who? Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about that. Girl, I cannot believe we are talking about that.
Wait, what are we talking about? Let's talk about that. Well, let the record show that we are of equal standing here on this podcast.
That's right. It should show that because I do a lot of work for this show.
I know you do. Hey, we're getting towards the end of season 1.
Oh, my goodness. Only 5 episodes left.
I think that's right.
Of season 1.
We just did a huge promo shoot for season 2.
Yes.
So get ready. There's going to be a whole new graphics package.
That's right. That's right. And also, and talking about us real quick, this has been a hectic week for me because I have started working in development on a new show.
I know, that's amazing.
That will be coming to the air for you guys, and I'll have more info on that when that is announced.
When the NDAs expire.
No, when it's announced, I will happily share on this podcast what show it is and where it's coming to.
That's very exciting.
That's very exciting. But other than that, we really don't have much time for intros today, okay?
No, but you know, I'm so excited about our guests today, and I think about the moments of our youth.
Yeah.
When I was in Beauty and the Beast in my high school musical, and when I did it on High School Musical, the series.
Yeah.
And when you did Shrek the musical.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think about our theatrical, our times watching theater, our times engaging with puppetry.
Yes.
And that makes me think about our guest today.
Yes. So our guest today is an Emmy-Award winning.
Hell yeah.
Winning. Not nominated.
Not nominated.
Winning. Creator, producer.
He's kind of
actor,
an all-around everything. Showrunner.
Singer, dancer, Broadway
star.
All of it. You might know him from the original Broadway cast of Avenue Q, the original Broadway cast of Shrek the Musical.
You might know him from Johnny and the Sprites on the Disney Channel.
The hit Emmy-winning show Fraggle Rock.
Yes.
I mean, he is one of the most talented, iconic, and lovely gays on the planet.
And he's gay.
Hello.
I mean, I couldn't think of a guest that more perfectly encapsulates all of the things that we love to talk about here on Let's Talk About That.
That's right. So it is our honor and privilege to welcome to the podcast John Tartaglia right after this. John Tartaglia!
That was the best blast of energy I have had in a while.
Yes.
That was amazing.
You know, that's the way it is. It's the Let's Talk About That intro.
Yeah.
I love it. Patented.
Can I just say that your biggest fan in the world probably is in this room. Like, no, you don't understand because I live with him. Like the amount that you are talked about in this household is really.
Jacob, you said when we had John Tartaglia on that I couldn't fangirl, and now you're doing it for me.
He's trying to make it less awkward.
Yeah. I'm trying to diffuse the tension here. Okay.
It's palpable. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little overwhelming. I'm kidding. That's so sweet. Thank you.
I mean, I'll let you talk. I promise. But the reason I am such a huge fan of yours is because I'm a tap dancer, and that is a very niche skill.
Yes.
And I love, and you're a puppeteer, which is also a very niche skill. And I love how you have taken your niche skill and made it something that is indispensable, like something that is it makes you the person to call when they're like, we need someone who can do puppets, who's also a great actor and who's funny and who can sing and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Similarly, that's like what I strive to be, is like, we need someone who's a tap dancer, who can act and be funny and yada yada yada. And it's such a powerful thing in this industry when you can have something that makes you stand out and that people start to recognize you for, and to be able to carve your niche in that specific way is like something that we should all strive to be in this industry.
Thank you.
And I've always loved seeing your journey of that, you know?
Thank you. Well, and it's funny you say that because I always tell people, like when I do, talks at universities or something, whatever, whenever I get the chance to kind of talk about my career, I always say, like, I am well aware that there are much better singers and actors and even puppeteers out there and dancers and everything. It's like,
right.
I think my combo is what gave me the shot to break through.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of my earlier career trying not to do that. Like I was kind of like I was almost worried that like because I did puppetry, people thought less of me in some weird way as an actor.
Right.
And I was in rooms sometimes where people would be like, "Oh, you're just a puppeteer," which puppetry is such a difficult art, and there is so much to it. It takes so much effort and so much nuance, and you have to be a really strong actor to be a good puppeteer, in my opinion. And so it was always like such a slight that just hurt so deeply. And so when I was like really young, I kind of was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't tell people I do that too as an actor. And it wasn't until I embraced the fact that was my special skill.
Yes.
And I kind of let that be what has guided me, that like I feel like I got to do what I love, So I think it's important to find that special thing, whether it's tap dancing or puppetry or opera singing or sculpting or whatever it is for you that you love,
Yeah, it's like it truly is about like embracing the it sounds so cliche, but like embracing the things that make you. You know what I mean? That's like what makes you stick out.
Because we all try to be like different people when we're younger, right?
Right.
Like I was trying desperately for years to be like, Adam Pascal or Anthony Rapp in Rent. I was like, I just want to be them, and I would try to sing like them and act like. And then one day I was like, wait, I'm never going to be them. I have to be me. And
I'm fully in that same boat right now. Like there's people on Broadway or in TV that are, they're not super similar to me, but they're just similar to me enough where I start to compare myself to them and think, oh, if I change this and this, or if I work at this one specific thing, then I can be more like them.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. It's not helpful to do that because it doesn't. They're still up for the roles, so like I will never be a better them than them.
Yeah, and it's. I think we do that though in all aspects of life, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think it ever really goes away. Like, I'd be lying if I were to say to you, like, I don't still, find myself sometimes, comparing or like, and you can't do that because it's like, and we do that as humans looking at, oh, I wish I had muscles like that guy, or I wish I sounded like that person, or I wish I think we all. I think it's a lifelong struggle we all face.
Yes.
But when you start to really embrace those unique parts of yourself, I think that's when you tend to, operate your higher level.
And that is when you win an Emmy.
Great
Congratulations, Emmy winner. John Tartaglia is here. So tell us about winning an Emmy for Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, it's for our second season. It's for Best Series.
Wow.
So I always say it's we all share it, which is beautiful. And which is such if you know Fraggle Rock, that is the message of the show, is that we all are connected, we all share. It was really surreal. And I think, it's like I definitely was that kid for sure, that theater kid who would like stand in his bathroom at 10 years old in front of the mirror and like rehearse my Oscar speech. So what's funny is like the morning of the Emmys, I was getting ready and I did not have anything prepared, honestly. Like really, I hadn't written. And my boyfriend was very encouraging. He's like, you should write something. And I was like, I don't know, because it's because I've been to the Emmys many times and not won. And so I just was kind of like, and not like in like a pitiful way. I just was kind of like, it's okay. Like, I'm so happy to be invited to the party. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay. I just genuinely didn't think it was going to happen. And so when it did, I just went into like slow-mo. And it's funny because the image I have, and I don't know if you guys have had that experience, but like with something that you like shocking, good or bad happens, everything kind of goes in slow-mo.
Yes.
And I have this image of like, I like stood up and I was like, oh my God. I was like panicking, looking around the room and they're like playing the music and talking about us.
You don't know where to go.
Right. And my boss, my co-executive producer, one of my dearest friends, Hallie, all I saw was her going, get up fire, just like lip syncing it. And I was like, okay, like, and I was like, it's on my phone. Oh God, like, and then people started texting, and I was anyway.
Right.
It was a really
course.
magical moment. It was really magical.
That's wonderful. And you created the show, right? And this was this your vision?
Jim
Okay.
Henson created it.
Yeah.
No,
originally.
I knew it was a reboot, but you created like the reboot.
I was part of
version.
that process.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. So the kind of short version of it is basically Henson was working with Apple Television on ideas for new things, and someone at Apple Television said, "Well, what is Fraggle Rock like? What's going on with Fraggle Rock?" And I, for years, along with Hallie, the person who's working on it, she and I for years have been talking about more Fraggle Rock because she's a huge fan of it, and it's literally what got me into this business. Period. When I was 7, I saw the show. I was like, "That's what I want to do." So I've always been like, "Let's bring back Fraggle Rock," like annoyingly, like in meetings, like I'd always be like,
Apple's
"What
like,
about
what's going on?" And you go, Fraggle Rock,
Fraggle Rock,
Fraggle Rock.
It was literally like everyone's ears went bing, and so they were really curious about it, and then we were talking about it. We were like getting excited about it and kind of developing what it could be, and then COVID happened, and so we all went home, and I had the Fraggle puppets in my office at Henson where I work, and some like deep gut instinct, because if you remember like that time, it's hard to remember now, right? But like it was like that week in March when everything shut down, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was like, oh, maybe it'll be a few weeks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was
100%.
like, but something in my soul was like, you need to bring these puppets home, because also they're like the Fraggles. Like I'm not going to leave the Fraggles like for someone to like steal.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I brought
Right.
them home, had them in my bedroom, literally, and then Tara Sorensen at Apple Television was like, could you guys maybe do some shorts like for families that are dealing with being separated right now during COVID? And we're like, yes. And we literally shot this short form series that's on the service still from our bedrooms, all the puppeteers. We shipped the puppets out to everybody.
Wow.
And like, this is when people were like wiping down their groceries, like 6 feet, like no one was around each other, right?
Yeah.
We shot these shorts and people loved them. And then that's how the series kind of came back. And, we have these amazing showrunners, Alex Cuthbertson and Matt Fussfeld, who are just brilliant, primetime writers. And anyway, so I guess that's all to say. It's a big family that makes it happen.
Yeah.
And it really was out of it. I mean, I always think it's special that this want to create something during COVID to make people feel better about being separated, because when grandparents couldn't see their grandkids, that was really traumatic for a lot of kids. So that's where the show really started, and then we just went to the first season, and now here we are. So it's mind blowing to me. It was my dream as a kid to do Fraggle Rock, so it literally feels like
And
I
now
manifested.
you've won an Emmy for it. It's unbelievable.
It's very, very
Congratulations.
surreal. Thank you. Thank you.
You know what is really cool? So we met you for the first time at Puppet Up.
Yes.
Which,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know, is an amazing. If you're in LA and it's happening, go see it. Is the
Yes.
coolest thing. Are they still going to do it on the Jim Henson lot?
I don't know. I think, because for listeners who are... So the Jim Henson Company lot is the Charlie Chaplin lot, the former Charlie
Right.
Chaplin lot, and it was just sold.
Right.
And John Mayer and McGee bought it.
Okay.
And so we're tenants on the lot now, but we don't own it anymore. So we're
Okay.
kind of waiting to know if we're going to do
What happens.
But it's definitely going to get done somewhere. Again. Oh, yeah.
Well, it is so cool. It's basically like after dark puppet improv.
Yes.
But
not for kids. It is
not for
very
kids.
adult. Not for kids.
But when we went, there's this whole beginning section, which obviously and they explained to the audience like the history of the Muppets and how the Muppets were the first, or Jim Henson really was the first person to use the frame of the TV as the puppet show box.
That's right.
And it's interesting that you're saying that Fraggle Rock started during COVID when everyone was in a screen.
That's right.
And didn't have the ability to
I didn't think about that. That's so funny.
Like
Yeah.
it actually, the application for like a COVID time show was perfect for like Jim Henson puppets, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and so much of family entertainment now, kids entertainment, I guess you could say, but I always say family is animation, right? Which takes a really long time to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think puppets are instant, right? Like literally right now, if I had a puppet on my hand, I could make a show for your cameras and it'd be done. Right. So that's the magic of it. I think we were able to do something.
And right over here,
all right, we'll be right back. Yeah. So we were able to do this like instant amount, like content, you know what I mean? So I think that also helped us. But yeah, you should definitely... Puppet Up is... It's the most terrifying and wonderful thing to do in the world, because it's all improv.
Fabulous.
It's all improv.
Yes.
We loved it.
Fabulous. And I also happened to catch Puppet Up when they did it at Knott's Scary Farm,
Yes.
like 2 years ago, last year, whatever. And that was when I was like, oh my God, I love this, and I have to see it for real. So much better on the lot because it's a full
cool.
show. You get the full experience.
You're on the soundstage where
Yes.
Charlie Chaplin shot all of his
So
films.
cool.
Yeah,
It's
and
so cool.
and also like Brian Henson being there, like
know.
that's special. I mean, Brian Henson,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
I've worked with Brian now for, like, I've known him since I was, 16 years old, because that's when I started with Sesame Street. But, I'm 47 now, so I've known him a long time, and I still am always like, in the very back of my, now we're associates and coworkers, and he's
Right.
the
Yeah.
nicest guy. But in the back of my mind, sometimes I'm like, you're Hoggle. You're Brian Henson. Like, in the back of my mind, I'm like listing all the characters he's played, because it's like, when you grow up as a fan of something and then you get to be part of it,
Right.
it's hard to sometimes separate the two.
I don't know if I realized that do you work full time like for the Henson Company?
I
Is your
do
Henson
now.
Company?
Yeah. So
Wow.
I came out here 10 years to LA in 2015, 10 years ago, to work on a series. And I was here. And then a show that I was creating with Henson got picked up while I was here.
Okay.
Because I lived in New York at the time.
Yeah.
And wasn't really thinking about moving to LA. And then when the show got picked up, Lisa Henson, who runs the company, she was like, well, you're gonna stay in LA, right? And I was like, oh yeah. I was thinking, I'll go back and I'll get my stuff and kind of say goodbye and I'll move out here for. And she was like, no, like you're gonna like just stay. Like you can't. She's like, there's no time to go back. We're starting pre-production like in a week. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
what? So I literally had a moving company go to my apartment in New York City. This is true. And pack
crazy.
it up. I mean, it's kind of crazy looking back. I'm like, these people, like, I didn't know them at all.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
hired them.
They
I'm
could have
like,
just taken.
they could have
things.
taken stuff.
Yeah.
I had a roommate, so luckily I was like, he was like kind of
Okay.
like keeping an eye.
Right.
But my poor roommate, who's one of my best friends, he said these people came in
And
and
you're
took all my stuff. He's like, bye. Like I never said
Yeah.
good.
You're
It was
gone.
Crazy. And then I was
Yeah.
here, and
Yeah.
they like shipped it across the country.
you've
My
been
car
here.
was in the back of a truck. They brought it, and
Wow.
here I was, and I've been here ever since. So it was such a weird.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's why I came here, and then about 3 years ago, I started more full time with Henson as just a creative development person, and now I supervise Fraggle Rock, the brand. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
really cool.
That's really incredible. And where did you grow up?
So I was born in Maple Shade, New Jersey.
Oh,
Hello,
New Jersey.
Where are you
from? Like the Princeton area.
Oh, you're like from
around
fancy
here.
Jersey.
Well, Princeton Junction, which was the less fancy version.
Like that, just hearing that name, I remember like the days on like New Jersey Transit, like Princeton Junction. like,
Yeah,
always past that. Always past that.
exactly.
But yeah,
exactly.
Maple Shade, New Jersey, South Jersey.
Okay, yeah.
And most of my family, on my father's side, still lives there. So hi.
hey, New Jersey. We filmed
Big,
episodes
big
in New
Italian
Jersey.
family.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So my parents are divorced, but my father's side is Italian, and yeah, it's like I have like the classic, like a lot of cousins and
Yeah.
Yeah.
nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles, and I love that. I love that we have this like big side of the family. And then when my parents got divorced, and then when I was about 10, we moved to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
When my mom remarried, and so I lived my my teen years there in Pennsylvania, in
Gotcha.
Upper Dublin, Pennsylvania.
So New York City was like the sensible transition for you at the time to
Well,
like go and do theater.
Much like coming to LA, it was unexpected. I was supposed to go to college. I had a scholarship after high school to
Yeah.
go to the University of Maryland, where Jim Henson went, and I was ready to go. I was like 3 weeks away from going. Like, I'd met my roommate, I'd gone through orientation. I was so excited, and I got a call from Sesame Street. I had been working at Sesame Street since I was 16 as like an assistant puppeteer.
Oh,
Sure.
cool.
And I got a call from them basically saying, do you want to come be part of the season more full time this next season?
Wow.
And at first I was like, oh, I can do both. I could just like take the train from DC to New York, and they're like, and they listed the days that they wanted me, and it was like the whole time. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And so my mom, she's an actress, and she's my biggest supporter. She literally said, you know what? You need to make a decision. She's like, if you're going to spend the next 4 years wondering what could have been, and you feel like you might regret that someday, then you should move to New York City. And she's like, but if you do, you need to act like an adult. She's like, you need to pay your own bills. You need to pay your rent. She's like, because you're making a very adult decision, and you're skipping those 4 years of time.
Right.
So I did. And so
Wow.
literally with like 2 weeks notice, we found an apartment in New York City for me by myself at 18.
Wow.
My mom moved me in, and
You didn't have a roommate?
I didn't have a roommate. I had a wonderful lady across the way who would like look in after me, and my mom kind of knew her and had her information. But that was it. And I paid my own rent, paid my own bills, and
Wow.
and honestly, I'm like, how did I not get murdered? But I'm so thankful I had that, because it really set me, I think, on a course to kind of be responsible for myself earlier.
Yeah.
But it was, looking back, I'm like, I was a dummy at 18. I'm like, how was I not murdered in the gutter? Like, I don't know.
But it always happens that way. I mean, when I got High School Musical, I found out I got it 2 days before the spring semester was supposed to start, and I was in my junior year at Pace. And I like went into the dean of the performing arts school his office, and I was like, I got this show, like I have to take a leave of absence for this semester, like, and I was already registered for all of my classes that semester. I was already like ready to go. I had a production assignment. I was going to do lighting design for the dance show. Like it was like there were so many things that had to just kind of like take a back seat.
Yeah, it's a big decision.
Yeah.
But my nieces and my sister, I have to say really quickly, are going to lose their mind when they see this, because they're the biggest High School Musical fans. So I just want to, it's proof that we're here. And we met.
There will be a picture. You can send it. Okay.
Proof. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No. I was just going to say I had the same experience moving to LA, where I was like, we graduated both in 2020.
Right.
Okay. So yes,
COVID graduate.
We're young.
COVID college.
And like
I'm an old man. That's all I think right now. I'm like,
we'll bleep out when you said your age. So don't worry.
Please do.
But in graduating, like into COVID, like there were no entertainment industry jobs, right? So like I was working at an Amazon warehouse, and
no way.
Yeah, literally. And like I was trying to save up money so that I could like, get myself to a point where I could move somewhere when things were open again. And I did that for like 8 or 9 months. And then like randomly one day, somebody I knew in LA like called me. He's like, "Hey, I just got like a showrunner gig on this new show. Like, do you want to come do it?" And I moved to LA in 2 weeks, like full stop. Like I started working the next day remotely, and then was in LA within 2 weeks.
That's incredible.
Just doing the whole thing. And it was America's Most Wanted was where I started.
Oh my gosh,
the reboot of that. And then, like going into World of Wonder, I did that for 3 years, producing Drag Race, which was a dream.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
And now I'm doing other shows. So but it's like, it's just crazy when you make the transition, and like all of that just happens so quickly in this industry in particular. Like,
and you can't, that's the thing. First of all, I think it's a combo of like trusting the little voice inside of you that says, I should do this. Yeah. And we're kind of trained. It's weird. It's like as we're growing up, we're kind of trained to like be super, super strategic and factual about things. And I find with this industry, or anyone, when you have a dream of doing something that isn't like an A plus B equals C kind of career, you have to listen to that voice, and you have to take those chances, because there's like every moment, and I mean this like literally every moment I can look back at major milestones in my life or career were moments where there was like the safe choice, and then the like what I call like the jump, right? Like I'm gonna jump, and I may crash, or I may like land really light on my toes. I don't know. And I think you have to be willing to take that jump, because it's, I don't know. I just think that for whatever reason, like if you listen to that little voice, like it'll lead you most of the time the right way. And but you're right. Like I could have been very factual, but like, no, I can't take this job. That's insane. I need to go to college for 4 years. But I do think like I would have regretted it, and I would have missed an opportunity that I'm now certain would not have come again. Yeah. So you just have to trust that.
And that's turned into like your whole life and career. Like,
for sure.
It's truly like going down a path that has led you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason too. So that also just, I don't know whether that's just comforting optimism. I don't know.
Listen, you have to be optimistic. Like, I mean, the whole thing with the generation now is manifestation, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you believe it will happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not the worst idea. Like, believing in that things will happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they kind of work out that way.
There's cases of that, like where they've studied, like, how much does that, I mean, you can get scientific, right, and say how much does the mind actually control what happens, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think if you're trying to be positive and optimistic, for the most part, it'll have a good effect on your layout of your life, I think.
Yeah.
I am let's be clear, I'm not a scientist. I know nothing. So
TBD.
did not go to
TBD.
college.
We'll see if it works out.
I hope that, well, clearly something's working. Yeah. We're here. We did something right.
Okay, more with John Tartaglia right after this. And we're back.
Seamless.
So, in moving to LA, do you feel like ever disconnected from your theater days, or do you
a good
still
question.
keep that a lot in your life?
It's funny. I was worried about that when I came out here. I was like, oh, like I'm such a New York person, and like,
Yeah.
of course, a lot of my life
Me too.
has been theater. Yeah, theater and Broadway. And I mean, I think I'm lucky because of my Sirius XM radio show, I do a 6-hour block every Sunday on Sirius XM on the Broadway channel.
Oh my god! And you do that from here?
I do,
Like,
yeah.
Easy.
So I
Oh my
get
gosh.
to like 6 hours every week. I get to really kind of make sure I'm back immersed in that, and I have to keep up on like what's happening, what's opening when on Broadway, so we can talk about
Yeah.
it. So I do feel connected in that way. And then it's funny. It's like I left New York and was sure that like, okay, no one's gonna think of me for anything theatrical from here on. And it's kind of been the opposite. I feel like I've worked more, in New York City and theatrically since I left in some
Wow.
weird way. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just because
Yeah.
I'm old and people know who I am now. But it's so but I do. The thing I miss though is I miss the community.
Yes, the
Like
Broadway.
we have theater out here, but it's so different walking down the street in New York City and just running into a friend and grabbing lunch or a drink or something and going to see a show. It's just a different world.
Yeah, and everyone, the shows are so important. It's like whatever show is opening, it becomes like everyone's conversation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But you are responsible for one of the most infamous or famous Tony Best Musical
Yes.
upsets in history.
Put on your media training,
and I'm blaming you specifically.
because I want to know how you feel about the success of Wicked now.
You know what? It's so funny. It's so funny you say that. So I was like 2 weeks ago on my radio show. I was saying that I think that it's really interesting because obviously, and no one believes me when I say this because they're like whatever, but it's true. We genuinely did not think we were going to win because in the tradition of Broadway, it doesn't work like that. It's like the big show,
Wins.
It wins, and that's because that's the most horrible show. Like it makes sense, right?
We're talking about Avenue Q, by the way.
Yes.
Yes, Avenue
for our
Q
listeners.
versus Wicked.
Every Wicked fan is like,
We're making it a competition,
Yes.
raising the stakes.
Clearly.
Yeah.
No, but we were like, I think I said earlier, like, I'm just glad to be at the party, right? When I was talking about the Emmys. That's exactly how we felt at the Tony. We're like, we're just happy to be here. Like, we're like the weird little, like, 7-person puppet show. Like, we just genuinely, like, Anne Harada, who was the original Christmas Eve, used to call us like the little show that could, because we were just the sweet little show that like found its way to Broadway. And like, so when they said Avenue Q, all those reactions were so genuine because we all were like, what?
Yeah.
And what's funny is like we've always had this mutual appreciation for each other's shows. So like Kristen Chenoweth was like a huge Avenue Q fan, and I would go to see Wicked on like my nights off from Avenue Q because I'd sit there and be like, this is the coolest show. And
Right,
Stephen
and it was
Schwartz
like
is a friend,
new
so-
and huge.
and I just, for the competition really got created between, I think, the people who ran both shows, because of course you want to win the Tony. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it was always, but I will say, like, it's really funny. Like, I think there's people who are big Wicked fans who will like, almost like be like, oh, I'm a Wicked fan. I'm like, no, that's cool. I'm a Wicked fan too. Like, they're like scared because I was an Avenue Q. So to answer your question, I actually thought the movie was the most incredible thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I
So
am
amazing.
so happy because I remember seeing the original show and being like, it feels cinematic. It has that scope to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just want
Oh
someone to
my
make the
gosh.
Avenue Q movie.
Hey.
Yeah, when's the Avenue Q movie happening?
Well, they better do it quick because I'm too old to play Princeton clearly now. So they're going to have to put me like in a window as like old man number 4.
I would be
So I can-
sad. I would be sad. I love Avenue.
Right? It'd be such a good movie.
How involved were in the development of Avenue Q? Were you like super?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's what I was saying earlier about like those yes moments and like listening to your gut. So what happened? The way it started was it wasn't even going to be a theater show. It was going to be a TV series, like a kind of like. Do you remember Crank Yankers? That show, Crank
Yes.
Yankers?
Yeah.
Imagine like that kind of tone where it's like an adult Sesame Street,
Sure,
on like
with
Comedy Central.
puppets, yeah.
And Bobby and Jeff, who were the composers, had written like 4 or 5 songs, 4 of which are still in the show, and a couple of skits with Stephanie DeBruzzo, who played Kate Monster's
Yeah.
husband, Craig, and they were going to do a reading of it. in a theater just to kind of show what the TV show was going to be for friends and family. And they called me and said, hey, we have this character. Maybe you want to play. His name's Princeton. And he's like this like young college kid. And at the time I was 21, 22. So I definitely was that age. And they knew I did musical theater. And they're like, do you want to come do this reading? And I was like, I actually had a gig that night. I had I was catering, I think at the time I had like a booked gig that was going to pay, but something in my heart was like, say yes to this. And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And we did this reading with the puppets next to us because, now it's such a style, but it had never been done like that before. We just did it because that's how we would do it on TV. And people went nuts. It was like, I can still remember the laughter in that theater and just the way people reacted to this thing. And I'd never had that experience before, right?
Yeah.
And then literally from there, everything just started, snowballing. And so then it was like, wait, this should be a theater show. Wait, we should do it, at this theater. Let's develop at the O'Neill. And it just like, we did readings and workshops. And I was always convinced, one of our producers loves this because she's like, we never thought about this. But I'm like, yes, you did. I was always like, they're going to replace me. Because, I was this completely unknown, 20-something puppeteer actor guy. Like, my joke was always like, you're going to get Neil Patrick Harris. You're going to get Joey Fatone. You're going to get some, because, it was like, because I was thinking to myself, like, that's what I would do. Like, like it's risky to open a new show with an unknown, but no. To their credit, they had a cast of mostly people at the time who were still either up and coming or unknown, and 5 of us made our Broadway debuts, and then we opened off Broadway first, and I was like, great, I've made it. I'm doing a legit off Broadway show. We got great reviews. Celebrities are coming to see us. Great. And then when they told us we were going to Broadway, it was just like my whole life changed. Literally, my life changed overnight.
Right.
And so to answer your question, I was literally from the very first reading until we opened on Broadway. I was the only person to play that role, and it was cool because we really did get to put ourselves into it. Like Rod's development as a closeted gay Republican very much came from us playing in the workshops and the readings.
Especially with a show like that. I mean, I'm in a musical comedy group at UCB.
I love that.
It's so you should come.
I gotta come see it. Yeah.
Well, Gwen is in it, and not her husband Ben, but
Ben's always
who's also
Ben's always
brilliant.
there.
Who's so brilliant. He's so brilliant.
We talk about Gwen all the time on this podcast.
I know. Who did
We love you, Gwen.
Ashley Argota.
Oh yeah, Ashley Argota knew her
I heard
too.
that, yeah.
Anyway, so and we're so we're a musical comedy group, and the writers write. Well, I mean, we're all kind of writers in the group, but we write a script, and then it's like in rehearsal, there are so many more jokes that we find, so many more things that get added to the show from doing the rehearsal, and it's like it's really the same in a Broadway show. One of the women in our group, her name is Vosti. She originated like 5 or 6 Broadway shows. And one of them was SpongeBob, and she's like been all over. And she talks about like it's the original cast that creates the show.
You put your imprint on it, and and that's part of the beauty of it, right? Is like you're asked. That's usually why you're cast. Is like they know you're going to bring something to the show,
right?
But it's really weird now to see like when it was still running off Broadway and on Broadway Avenue Q. Like I'd go back and see the 20th person to play Prince and Rod,
right?
And I would be like, oh my gosh, like that's right. Like Rick and I came up with that moment, or like, oh yeah, I turned my head that moment because it made Jason laugh, the director, and like that's why we kept it. Like it's just funny to like look at those little things that are still in the show to this day,
right?
That we contributed to, and it's really like it's surreal, and it's also really it makes you feel really proud of it.
Yeah. Was it always supposed to be Princeton and Rod as one track, or how did that happen?
I think they took advantage in a good way of like because most puppeteers play multiple roles. Like it's like that's usually like what we're hired for is like you're gonna like on Fraggle Rock I play 5 different roles. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and that's kind of part of it's like the SNL like repertory company feel, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there was a little bit of like in a regular show that doesn't happen as often, right? Where someone plays more than one role. It does, but rarely. And I think they were like, well, yeah, I mean, they're puppets. So like you could play this guy and you could play that guy. And, and I really don't remember genuinely if it was like they asked me to play Rod or I just was like, I want to play that character. And Rick and I, who played Nikki, Rick and I have known each other forever. And he and I had such a great back and forth. And he really is like Ernie Nikki. Like he is that kind of like sweet person. So I was like, it just was a fun thing to play against that, and I love Princeton. Princeton's my boy, but I really love playing Rod. I miss that desperately because I could say anything with him.
Just such great characters, like, and the references are so clear, like what it's making fun of is so clear, and then just to be like funny and have a great message on top of that. amazing show.
Oh yeah,
Just a great show.
we would do a lot of like news things where they loved having like Rod on the news to do the weather and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And like he would, and so I created this like whole backstory for him in the back of my mind of like, because people would ask,
Yeah.
and so I like made up a fake last name for him, all this crazy stuff. But I loved like a Miss Piggy or like a Madam. Like I loved that I could use him to like, make a joke or something like that. And people would like wouldn't realize that it was like me saying it. Like
Right.
it was, you know what I mean? Like
amazing.
I did this one interview with this news anchor who was not the nicest person in the world and just was in a bad mood or whatever. And so I was just teasing him with Rod. Like I was like, oh, that ties a question. Like, you know what I mean? And he'd be like, I had no idea that. I was like,
You're like right there.
I was like, hee.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we really know you for is Shrek the musical.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I mean, and just on that same thing that we talked about at the start of this episode is like taking your puppetry skills and bringing that into a new space. That's like that show. There's a world in which that show didn't have puppets.
Yeah.
Like
My high school did it, just so you know, like your impact as
true.
rippled into high schools across America.
I'd like
That
to
is
apologize to everyone who's ever played Pinocchio, like since me, for the high falsetto stuff. That was just my freakish skill that became part of the show, and now everyone looks at the score. They're like, "What the?" Like, so I apologize in advance or in retrospect.
I mean, and like that show, like. It's the complete opposite of what Avenue Q was. Like massive show.
Yeah, it was very different experience walking into that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the expectations were so different. Like we were like, Avenue Q was like, Mickey and Judy put on a show in the barn, you know? And Shrek was like big, giant conglomerate,
IP.
like corporate IP show
Yeah.
with expectations. And so that was just a very different experience. But
And we talk about this all the time on our show. She comes up all the time working with Sutton Foster.
the best. She's the best.
We when we had Kate Reinders, we were like,
Oh, yeah.
we were like, how do we get to Sutton? We were like
the Kevin Bacon.
Okay, so she's
60s.
best friends with Anna Gasteyer, who's in with Sutton Foster on Once Upon a Match.
We were like, how do we connect this?
We're making all the connections.
She's the best.
Yeah.
She's the best. And actually, one of the things I'm so proud of, and like she used to give me credit for this, is that Johnny and the Sprites, my show on Disney Channel, was her very first TV thing, and she didn't want to do TV for years. She kind of like put it off, which is crazy because like she was such a huge star and is such a huge star, and she kept saying no because I think she was intimidated by TV. And it was so funny. She came on and played my sister on Johnny and the Sprites, and we had such a blast together. And afterwards, she's like, "Thank you for like." You're giving me this as a first experience. And so I always like, I used to tease her like, well, that's where you started as Johnny and the Sprites. But I mean, she's just, what I think I love about Sutton is that she is this glamazon on stage, and she, she is a huge Broadway star. And then backstage, she's just like the most humble, easygoing, comes in her puffy coat with her hair in pigtails. And she's like, hi guys. Like, like I brought cookies, like such a kind, thoughtful. And when you lead a show, it's so important. Like it comes from the top.
Right.
Yeah.
And if your lead star has that kind of energy, then everyone feels safe to like play and be themselves and feel like they can contribute in the room. And so I give her a lot of credit for that. Her and Brian Darcy James, who was amazing.
Who's Broadway's dad, Brian?
He is Broadway's dad. He is Broadway's dad. Under all that Shrek makeup.
That's what Kate says because they did something rotten together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you go see Once Upon a Mattress?
I did go see Once Upon a Mattress.
Because
So good.
I was just thinking like there were a lot of Shrek people in that one.
Daniel Breaker and Sutton and it was I actually loved I thought that production was amazing. And
Yeah.
great.
She's brilliant. I mean, she can literally do anything, I think.
Yeah.
Her range, like if you look at like the roles she's played, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
I know.
And then so for Shrek, back to Shrek. So
You're like, I have questions.
I know.
Yeah.
Were you part of like the design of all of the puppets that were in the show? Like I remember somewhere in the back of my head seeing a video of you in like 2010 doing like the face capture for the magic mirror.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, so there's a two-part answer to that. So sometimes, remember saying before, like, listen to the yes inside of you, right? Sometimes that can go too far. And you can take on a job that you shouldn't take on. So Jason Moore, who directed Shrek the Musical and also directed Avenue Q, was a good friend, and he...
Oh, it was the same director.
Same director.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so he approached me about the idea of building the puppets for Shrek the Musical on Broadway, which of course I was like, oh my God, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
And I can build puppets, but I'm not a puppet builder by trade. That is a
Right.
full art form.
Right.
But I was like so excited at the opportunity that I was like, yes, I could do it. And I totally screwed up. And like, I did not deliver on these puppets. They were bad. They were really bad. And then he had like, I put him in a horrible position. He had to go back to the producers and be like, oh, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So then they hired someone else to build the puppets and they did a much better job than I did. But so the answer is I was involved in that way and I failed miserably. So the puppets you see, I did not build is the answer. But I did do the magic mirror, and what they would do, it was really, I'm so sad that we never got to really do it to its full potential. The idea was the magic mirror could improv with the audience and we could like react based on what happened that night. And so there was this moment that was going to happen during intermission where they were going to bring the magic mirror back in and like, 5 minutes before Act 2 started.
Yeah. And
they were going to bring a kid or a parent up on stage and I would talk live with them.
Brilliant.
And then they would get to, if they answered like whatever riddles, right? Like, how many pigs are there? And the 3 little pigs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course they would get it right. And then they would get to pick the color of Fiona's bouquet for the wedding. And so, and it was a great idea, but the tech for that show was really tough. It was like, it's such a, if you have seen the original, with all the lifts, and it was a really, really difficult show. And so we just started losing time in tech and we like wouldn't get to it. I'd be like, are we gonna?
Yeah. How long was tech for that show?
I think we had 3 weeks of tech maybe.
Wow.
Okay.
That's not
which is a lot. Yeah. And, but anyway, but we never got to that. So we never did it, but I would still do the Magic Mirror live every night. So what would happen is I'd finish as Pinocchio, from A Time to Say Goodbye, Time to Say Goodbye songs.
Yeah.
And I would go off stage. I'd take off all my Pinocchio stuff and they'd wipe off my makeup and rip off the costume. And I'd run up 5 flights to this like little closet-sized room in the Broadway theater. And they had in there was all these infrared cameras, like motion capture cameras. Yeah. And then the makeup artist who worked on the show, she was incredible, Christina, she would glue on. And they had to be precise. It had to be like to like the millimeter couldn't be off.
Wow.
26 motion capture dots on my face.
And this was like a quick change though, right?
I had like 5 minutes, but it still was not a lot.
5 minutes for 26 precise
26 dots, and literally like I give her credit because she started figuring out like where like a freckle was and she'd like measure like how far off the dot could be. And there were like 1 or 2 times where like a dot fell off or it was off a little bit. And so the magic mirror would go out and his like mouth would be a little weird. but it was really cool. I mean, it was such a cool thing to do because I literally, and they gave me this joystick because when I was going to talk to the audience, they wanted a camera that could like, so I could figure out who to talk to in the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had this like joystick, and so I could literally move the camera around while like I Know It's Today was playing and zoom in on people. And this camera, it must have been like a military grade camera because I could zoom in like people's like watches. Like it was cuckoo. Wow. But it was so cool. But then when we had celebrities in the audience, I could be like, hey, like I could zoom in. But anyway, it was so cool.
I saw you trying to slide in,
right.
Nicole Kidman. Get up here. Get up on stage.
It was really cool. But yeah, every night they do that. And then I'd finish that and they'd wipe that off and I'd run down and do the dragon. And it was like crazy.
Okay. So were you inside the like how did the dragon work?
The dragon was on like an elevated. It was like the dragon's head.
Right. I remember there was that. God, I'm such a nerd.
I love it.
There was that center kind of like pedestal.
Yes.
There was like the tower was on that.
Yes.
And then the dragon and it would like move around.
And they could move us around.
Yes.
So we were basically like on like I was standing on like a 4 or 5 foot like structure. I don't know what you call it, like a truss, I guess.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I like be inside the head, and I have like foot pedals for like I could make the smoke come out of its mouth, or I could like make the eyes blink, or make the mouth move, and then the crew guy would be under there with me, and then they would lock me onto the turntable. And there were lifts on the turntable.
Okay,
right.
So they could literally spin the head around and move everything. It was really cool. It was kind of, looking back, I'm like, this
ingenious.
Is crazy.
Kind of ahead of its time in terms of like how much technology was being used.
It was insane. And they were really trying, and I give them credit because they were trying to like make it, like put it all into the show. And that's why it was such a hard show to do, But they flew me out here. I got to like, see, at the time I was living in New York, and I got to see like, DreamWorks campus and stuff like that. And got to meet the animators who did the movie. And, but it was such a fun, I loved being in that show. Like, it's like I never had a show where I was like, oh, I want to do this show. Like I always wanted to be out there. And
that show, you were like, now that I'm hearing it, you were always moving. Like you were always doing it, because Pinocchio is a principal track, but not in every
thing.
They
cut a lot of our stuff.
And it was like you're moving around doing almost every scene. It seems
Yeah.
like
It makes me sad because we had a Pinocchio. You guys would have loved this. We had a Pinocchio scene in Seattle where we did the out of town tryout. I was like, you guys can't cut it. Where Pinocchio was literally like playing himself like a bow, like a thing, and he was like singing this like sad song with Gingy in front of a campfire. It was the dumbest. It was, and people loved it, but they're like, we gotta. The show's like 13 hours long. We gotta cut this thing down. But oh my god, I missed all that. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Cursed Child, with two nights.
Right, we could have done that. We could have done that 2-night Shrek experience. Come on, who doesn't want that? Come on.
I mean, these are like these are kind of all my questions about.
Well, no, because you also like Johnny and the Sprites.
Oh yes! Oh my god! Oh gosh! I can't believe I forgot about Johnny and
you
the
don't
Sprites.
understand.
I was waiting. No, okay.
You don't understand the level of fan that.
It's mutual now. It's
Yeah. Well, I just remember like watching Johnny and the Sprites. I mean, I think I was a little old. Like I maybe was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But
we made it really for like that was the goal. Was like it wasn't like only for this age. It was kind of like everyone could watch it if they wanted. If they got something out of it. You know?
Yeah, and like I feel like that was my first introduction, and then like Shrek was next, and then being like, oh, that's the same guy. And then when I got older for like to understand Avenue Q, I'm like, oh, now that's the same guy. You know, that kind of thing. So now that I'm learning more about you filmed Johnny and the Sprites in New York.
I did. Yeah, we shot it actually upstairs from where I worked on Sesame Street. So it was really cool. Yeah.
Do they still shoot that in New York?
Sesame Street, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Kaufman Astoria Studios. And so it was very cool to be like, oh my God, my show is like in the same place where I started, you know? And it was crazy. At the time I was doing Johnny and the Sprites, I was also doing Beauty and the Beast at night on Broadway. And that was also something I will never do again. Because I was like, I was like, I could do it. But it was like, I literally.
Wait, what did you do on Wednesdays?
On Wednesdays, I wouldn't do the matinee. Oh no, actually, I think at the time when I was doing Beauty, they weren't doing Wednesday matinees. They were doing like 2 shows Saturdays, 2 shows Sundays.
Okay.
So I think it kind of worked out.
You were working 7 days a week.
Oh, it was insane. And I would get up at like 5 in the morning and go to set for Johnny and the Sprites. And I was also one of the producers. So on top of performing, I had to have that mindset.
And write the show.
And work on the show with the writers and produce it. And then I would, have lunch. And then I would, at like 6:30, we'd wrap. I'd get in the car, go to, Times Square, shovel some food in, and then do Beauty and the Beast. And
what theater was Beauty and the Beast at?
At Luntfontein. Where Death Becomes Her is now.
Yes.
Oh,
we've been there multiple times.
Because we also saw Sweeney Todd.
We saw Sweeney Todd and then Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I love that.
Did you
theater.
see
it? Yes. Jen Samard and Megan Hilty, come on. It's
so amazing. So good.
It was
come on.
fabulous.
We had like a
so
whole
good.
episode where that's all we talked about.
I know.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh.
Well, we did a whole like East Coast New York trip and everything, and then seeing the family in New Jersey. We did all that, and so we had to film an episode out there. And so like the only thing we thought of to talk about, because it was just so in our minds, was Death Becomes
You're like, I guess we have to go see Death Becomes Her before the show.
Maybe Happy Ending as well that we loved.
Yeah.
So
That's so beautiful.
We almost had Megan Hilty. We
Did you?
we were.
It was just a schedule She had
She's
to do the
wonderful.
press. It was like right when the show was doing the press.
Oh, I'm such a fan of hers. And Jen Samard was in Shrek with me.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
As the Wicked Witch.
Who used to have a monologue that I swear to God I would like look for. I'd be like, please do the monologue. Like, she is
so
a
funny,
brilliant comedian.
Yes.
She can make anything work. She's just
100%
genius.
But so I was just asking about the theater because Beauty and the Beast, I for some reason never saw it on Broadway. Like I don't know.
You missed out.
Yeah, I don't know why. There were like so many cool things in that show, but I obviously did it in high school and all. I played Lumiere as well. So.
Oh, fun! Oh my gosh,
but,
we're bonded in the candelabra world forever.
Yeah. But yeah, wait. So what were some?
You also played it in your TV show.
Oh yeah, we also did Beauty and the Beast in High School Musical. The series.
I didn't see that. Oh my gosh,
season 2. But I didn't play Lumiere. I played LeFou.
Right. But if you go watch, they did Beauty and the Beast.
I have
to watch
musical.
That. Yeah, season 2 of High School Musical.
It was literally doing that show every night. People are always like, oh, what Avenue Q must be, and I always say it's the show that changed my life, and it's one of my favorite experiences. But truly, swear to God, playing Lumiere and Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Broadway experience.
Yeah,
it was just like being part of that music every night, and I'd never been in a show that big. like with pyro and effects,
Right.
and
Right.
you know, like I just felt like I was like, this is like everything I've ever wanted. Like I was so sad to like to leave that show. I was like, I would do that role again in a second.
And that was the show too that like I mean I guess Lion King was already a success, but like that was like Disney theatricals like
The
smash
first one.
success.
It's the first one, yeah.
Because did that open before the Lion King?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
1994.
So that was.
Didn't realize.
And it was
Wait, it
kind
opened
of
on Broadway in
in
1994.
1994.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, no one had ever seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, I remember like reading articles where it was like, you know, like, will Disney invade Broadway? And it was like, no, like they just kind of brought a brand new version of you know,
Broadway.
family theater to Broadway. But oh my God, yeah, it was the coolest thing to be a part of, and just, you know, watching like families like crying and during the music, you know, and, like, I don't know, it was really cool to be part of that.
That's wonderful. I want to talk 1 second about a different show because I just made a brain connection, which is have you seen or watched or enjoyed Big Little Lies on HBO?
Okay, so to be totally honest, I've only seen a couple episodes, but I know where you're going.
Yeah,
And my phone like blew up when that came out because everyone's like, "Do you know?" And the truth is, I didn't. Like, I had no idea that was happening.
Oh my God! Yeah, they did Avenue Q
Right, I
in
remember,
Big
yes.
Little Lies.
Yes.
Oh my God!
It's
Seeing
so cool,
Reese
right?
Witherspoon putting that on, I'm like, that must have been Johnny. And during your Broadway run, like fighting for this, fighting for that.
No, I mean, well, and it's, you know, what's funny is it's like they always say like that's when like, you know, that something like has had like crossed like into like the zeitgeist, right?
Yeah.
It's like when like another show references it, right? Like when SNL makes a joke about something, it's like, okay, you know, it's pop culture,
Right.
So, you know, we always still felt like we're the nerdy show, like we're not, people don't know, like people don't remember us, and so when that happened, I was like, hey, people like us, you know.
I remember when they started doing Avenue Q in like community theater.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, this is a show that people are doing. Like, I always thought it was like too raunchy, you know, but it's like,
Yeah.
And then actually seeing it and be like, okay, I'm an adult now and it's funny and I get it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, maybe that one's not the high schools. The
No,
high schools
no,
aren't doing
maybe-
Avenue.
although-
No, there's a clean version of the show.
Oh, there
that
is?
you can license,
Okay.
and it's
It's like Rent Junior. Like,
it's
kidding me?
pretty fun. It's
Junior.
pretty funny because it's like you know, and I do love the fact that people can do the show, you know, who don't want to do but you know, like Trekkie Monster sings like "My social life is online" is instead of the other song, and
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, it's different, you know.
Right.
but if it, you know, let's people do the puppetry, and like, you know, that's
Yeah.
Do they do everyone's a little bit racist? Is that?
I don't remember.
Oh my God! Like
I know.
like how
I
do you
don't
even
think-
do that show? As
I
a
don't think my
clean
school,
show?
like we did Oklahoma, we did
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Bye Bye
right.
Birdie. Like, I don't know if you, yeah.
My high school did Bye Bye Birdie too, but they also did like Shrek the musical, and I'm just thinking about like there are kids all over the country
Yeah.
that are doing roles that you originated.
It's very- like-
is that like a mind fuck or
Yeah,
you know?
I don't really process it. Like, I kind of disassociate from it because, and not in a bad way. I just like, it's hard for me to understand because it's like, you know, I remember being that kid, you know, who was just wanting to do those songs that people sang and listening to those Broadway cast recordings obsessively
Yeah.
of shows. And I actually do have a cool story, which is I remember sitting in like Chelsea Studios in New York City, which is one of the big, you know, audition studios or rehearsal rooms. And I remember sitting there and listening to someone go in and sing like Lost in the Wilderness before I went in for a role. This is like when I was like 18 when I first got
Yeah.
there. And I remember being like, wow, like the guy who sang that originally, Darius DeHaas, like he's amazing. And wouldn't it be so cool one day to have like a song like that people sing that like you're associated with? And I was just like, that'd be such a cool dream. And then like fast forward like 10 years when I'm in Chelsea Studios working on some project and I hear next door auditions for something and I hear someone singing Purpose.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
just like, I got really like goosebumps and teary eyed and I was like, like, and the person I was with at the time didn't know, like, they're like, are you okay? And I was like, fine. Like I couldn't verbalize it, but
Yeah.
it was really cool.
It's those full circle career moments.
Larry, you'll have that when someone's singing "Red Means Love"
Yes,
in,
yeah,
in
when
an
they're doing
audition.
Red
What if
Means-
I should have sung it? Then it would have been like, it would have all made sense. Should have prepared me. You didn't prepare me. I would have had it ready. Come on.
Are there any other Johnny career things that we've missed?
Yeah. You've done
Talk about a
you've
story.
done so much. I mean, it's just like we can't get to all of it, but like we're trying.
We kind
for
of did. I mean, we
yeah,
really,
yeah, you guys
really
covered a lot.
hit
We're
every
really
era.
trying because we know we have a lot of Broadway fans and like and Disney fans
And
who,
gay fans.
and gay fans who
I love those. I'm those things too.
I know, yeah. And,
I was on Broadway. I'm gay. And I love Disney.
I know,
So,
and that's like our demo. So like we feel a lot of pressure with you to really.
No. Well, and it's funny too because I feel like I do love that about the work I've done is like it's not just one world. It's like what I mean. It's like there's the Broadway fans who know me from that, and then there's people who grew up watching Dragon the Sprites, and now there's Fraggle fans, and there's it's a cool thing to be able to like touch into different worlds, and they're all things I grew up loving too. So it's a very genuine fandom amongst me with that stuff too. You know?
Right.
Absolutely, and I think it's amazing that you have been able to, like you had dreams of like incorporating things like I want to be a puppeteer. I want to, be a Broadway act. And it's like, and you were able to like make that real. And, it's like, the one thing I can relate to on that is my dream growing up was to make queer media. And then I was a producer on RuPaul's Drag Race. I was, writing sketches and doing all that. And it's just like, and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, like I'm doing
how did this happen?
Like on the biggest thing, the biggest queer show in the world. And I was like,
and it probably didn't happen the way you expected it to.
No, it didn't at all.
That's the thing,
and
right?
I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is like crazy. Like I'm doing the thing that I set out to do. And I just feel like you have probably had so many of those moments and
constantly.
And that's really like all you can ask for in life, right?
I mean, that's to go back to when you just kind of started at the top about the Emmy, like that to me is what that moment was, is that it was amazing, of course, to win that award, sure. But like what it really was for me was like this passion that has driven me my whole career. Like, and I always say this and it's true. Like I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for Jim Henson. Like he changed his creativity and his world that he created changed my whole life. Yeah. I discovered him right after my parents got divorced. And I was kind of like, I think I didn't know this at 5 or 6 years old, but like I think I was subconsciously looking for that thing to escape into, and his worlds became that for me. And so like winning the Emmy to me was like a big like thank you to him and an acknowledgement of like what he's done. Yeah. Because I wouldn't be sitting here with you if it weren't for what he's done. So it's like this, oh my God, I'm getting all teary-eyed. So it's like we're having therapy right now, guys. So just give us a minute. But really it's such a recognition. Sure.
A reconciliation?
Sure. Yes.
No.
Whatever. We'll figure.
Right.
We'll dub that over. But it's recognizing that that it's so much bigger and
recognition.
Thank you. I didn't go to college. SAT words. But yeah, I feel very just, it's just like that nerdy kid because, I was like, I'm sure we all were like, I was made fun of. I was beat up. I was the geek who liked theater and, you're gay and you like puppets. And it's kind of like to then get to give back to the show that means so much, like literally gave me my life. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's a very...
Well, Tim Federle, who created High School Musical the series, has this thing that he used to say in like all of our interviews, and he would always say like, this is the mantra of our show. And he would say, the thing that used to get me made fun of gets me paid now.
Wow.
The thing that got me made fun of then gets me paid now. And it's like, it's like that thing of sticking to your passion, even if people are making fun of you for it. It's like, because you will find that community of people that want to elevate you and push you forward.
And if there's a kid listening out there who's, young and getting, bullied or whatever, it's like most of the time people tease you for the things that they just don't understand or the things oftentimes that they're jealous of. And it was funny when I started working at Sesame Street, my first day I was 14, like that was my first like official like day on set. And I remember it was like I was made fun of for being the puppet gay guy and like they called me horrible things. And I remember coming back from New York having done that. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was like they're like, hey, how was it? Was it cool? You got to go to New York? Oh, that's neat. It was like it was so, and I'd never expected like that shift of like, 100%. Oh, this thing that you used to like torture me about and make fun of me and make me feel like I was so horrible for liking puppets. Now it's like the thing that is, because they were like, oh, you worked with that celebrity? How was that? Was that cool? Like, it was so weird to see like that shift, you know, and it did give me that confidence of like, oh, this is cool.
It is so weird that like the media, the people that run the media that, the people that are making fun of you consume are the people that they're making fun of. It's like a weird cycle.
Yes.
That those people don't quite understand how it all feeds into one.
The tortured artist
Yeah,
loop.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
The tortured artist loop.
Yeah. And I think we all get like, we could all look at it like from a 40,000 foot view and be like, you know, those are, a lot of it is like what they were taught by their parents.
Yeah.
Right. Or what they thought their friends would think was cool. That's why they said those things. But it's just, I don't know. It's, I've had a lot of people I went to school with, like, you know, as adults now kind of like be like, hey, sorry about, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, because those scars, they stay with you. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm sure we all look in the mirror and there's times where you're like still that like 10-year-old kid who like felt so ostracized and so different. And so when it's just nice.
That's every day, actually.
Yeah, I mean, right? We all do, right? So it's
And the good thing is, like, I do feel that's one of the positive things about TikTok and all those things is I think it is changing, and I think it
Yeah.
is easier for people to find their community of people. And,
100%.
and through like social media, you know.
Yeah, I wish I'd had that. You know, I mean, I'm glad I didn't have social media for many reasons as a
Right,
kid.
right.
But like at the same time, like you're right. Like I wish I could have gone on YouTube and
Yes,
like been like,
yes.
oh my God, there's someone else doing what I do. Or
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like you just didn't. I didn't have that in Maple Shade, New Jersey.
No, yeah. I hear you.
You
New
know?
Jersey beginnings.
It's a different world. Yeah.
Well, you are a joy and a light,
Thank you.
and really an inspiration.
you.
You know, your success is so well deserved,
Thank you.
and we just couldn't be more happy to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much. I feel like, have you seen that clip of Liza Minnelli on Home Shopping Network where she's like, thank you? I feel like that's what I'm doing right now.
Or you're Beyonce. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take it.
Well, if people listening to our podcast want to feel inspired, where can they find you on social media?
That is the best. Like that. What a great way to say it. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Johnny Tartags.
Great.
So you can find me there, and you can listen to my show on SiriusXM
Yes.
on Broadway
Right.
every
That's
Sunday,
amazing.
2 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Wait, what's the name of the show?
Sunday Fun Day with John Tartaglia.
I love it.
And what else? I have a website, johntartagliaproductions.com, and you can find out more about my work and what I've done. And yeah, so
Do you do TikTok?
you know what? I don't yet. Although
should.
I know, but someone just convinced me. They're like, you have to do TikTok. And I think what I'm going to do is a lot of like cool throwback stuff of like
Yeah.
Johnny the Sprite stuff and Avenue Q
Yes.
stuff.
It would
and
be
things
great
like
for
that.
some like puppet content. I feel
All
could
right.
do
Puppet
really
and
well.
Broadway world will
Eat it
latch
up.
on
Eat
to
it
you.
up.
I'm afraid of it because I'm sure you guys do. Like I open Instagram and like 4 hours go by. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm
Yeah.
scared of adding one more thing to that. But I also love TikTok. I think it's a brilliant thing. So
Yeah. It's the making side of TikTok is more interesting than the consuming side, I think.
Oh, that's
for us,
interesting.
at least.
I don't look at TikTok. I'm not like a TikTok person.
You don't
like,
scroll,
I don't scroll. I don't see anything.
But we post a TikTok every day.
But we post a TikTok every day. Like we make clips of the episodes.
maybe
and
that's-
post
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And you could do that. It's a
Yeah.
healthy balance.
I think I'm going to be lost on like sourdough starters and stuff if I go on TikTok.
That's
You're going to
true.
be like, what
That's
happened to John? Where did he go? And it's just like me sitting in a chair for like 3 years. Like, oh, I should learn how to groom my cat.
Trying to make bread.
I was have to perfect that croissant. Yeah.
Well, you can find us. This is you can find
Plugs,
us
plugs.
on TikTok and Instagram at Let's Talk About That Pod. On YouTube as well. We post these episodes as videos.
Yeah, and have any inquiries or fan mail, we take it all at let's talk about that pod@gmail.com.
This was an amazing episode.
Thank you. I want to come back.
thank
You guys are so easy
Oh my
to
gosh.
talk to.
Anytime.
You're literally welcome anytime.
We're gonna start texting you with invites to things now because
Yeah.
you're a friend
Done.
of the pod.
I'm gonna come dressed as Pinocchio next time just to
we have,
mess with you.
we have game nights. Like you'll be on all the lists. Don't worry.
Incredible. I made it. I've made it.
All right.
right.
We'll see you next week on Let's Talk About That.
Bye.
Bye.